Hello there. Yeah, kind of going over, looking at some stuff, listening to some stuff. And, some of you out there know me. I like to dabble in politics a little bit. The big thing right now is debt. We're got a whole lot of debt. Everybody's we're at 15 trillion. No, we're not. There's no way. Nobody's making any cuts to do anything about the debt. So if it's a 15 this year, it's going to be 16 next year, 17, 18, 19, 20, it's crazy. Now when politicians talk about cutting debt, cutting our deficit, and, cutting programs, and then when they talk about spending, excuse me, they're not all on the same page, and they don't really explain it well. When if they go in there and Congress says, okay, we're going to spend $100. Well, they're going to spend $100 this year. When they go in and say, we're going to cut $100, they're going to cut $100 over 10 years. That means every year they're going to cut $10, and then following year another 10, another 10, and so on. Now, so when they're sitting here talking about they're going to cut $1 trillion out of the deficit, what are they talking about? They're saying, okay, we're running a $1.3 trillion now in a deficit. So if they cut $1 trillion out, that means next year, if everything stays the same, we're going to be a 0.3 deficit. No, that's not what they mean at all. First of all, they're not talking about the true deficit. What they're talking about is the projected deficit. As cost goes up, if we do nothing, the cost is going to go up. Just through inflation and raises and this and that, prices go up. If you do nothing next year, you're going to spend more money on gas and groceries than you do this year. Alright? For the government, that difference is what they're going to talk about cutting. They ain't talking about cutting to 1.3 to start with. They're talking about cutting off of how fast it's going to grow. So, when they're talking about cutting $1.5 trillion, that's over 10 years. They're talking about cutting $1.5 trillion out of the growth. Well, if we go into a deficit of 1.3 every year, that's one price. Next year, the same thing's going to cost us 1.5. Okay? They're going to cut a little bit out of that, maybe. We have to learn how politicians talk to understand what they're doing to us. When they're sitting there saying they're going to cut $600 billion out of the deficit, they ain't cutting nothing. Let's look at it this way. This is what they do. Okay? I'm Congress and you're the American people. And we're sitting here talking, and I said, I saved my wife and me $40,000. You say, well, that's good. How did you do it? I said, well, I wanted a new pickup. So I went down and priced me a new Ford. It was a nice one. It was a 450, man. It was heavy. It'd tow a house or whatever I wanted to do. It had all the bells and whistles. Only $55,000. Well, then I sat there and I thought about it. I thought I really can't afford that. So I went over and bought me a used 3/4 ton Ford pickup, and I only paid $15,000 for it. So I saved myself this year $40,000. Does that make sense to you? It don't mean to me. It damn sure wouldn't to the wife. She wouldn't look like we were saving money at all if I done that. So anyway, Federal Reserve. Everybody's, Ron Paul, he's all into the Federal Reserve. If the way I understand it, the Federal Reserve decides we need $1 trillion. The government says, yeah, we do. So the Federal Reserve, they don't even print the money no more. They just go to the computer and punch it into the computer, and it goes off into government land over there and pops up on their computer. Now they got $1 trillion. Okay, what are they backing that $1 trillion with? Nothing. Where'd it come from? Out of thin air. Just out of thin air. Well, how about this? Since Obama's been in office, they've printed about $13 trillion that away. A lot of it went overseas to banks overseas and stuff like that. How about what they gave to the government, said we owe? Now think about this. The Federal Reserve prints $1 trillion out of air, sends it over a wire to the government. Then the taxpayer has to reach in their back pocket and give that $1 trillion back to the Federal Reserve. Not only that, we got to get them interest on top of it. So now we're paying interest on air, or electronic signal through a computer, or whatever, however you want to define it. How about if we do this? We go over to the Treasury Department, we get us a cardboard box, we fill that thing full of electronic air, go throw a couple of D-cell batteries in there for that electronic signal to work, and so there you go, you're paid off. We gave you exactly what you gave us. We're square. Now, our national debt is down there around $5 trillion. That we can deal with. Okay. Something I kind of kicking around is income tax. They want to do this and they want to do that. You've heard about the 999 plan, and you've heard about this plan, the flat tax. Personally, myself, I like the fair tax. How can we get there? It's oh, fair tax, we can't get there. I don't know. What if we done this? Kind of like old Kane. I kind of liked his idea. I didn't like his numbers, but I liked his idea. What if we had a flat tax or a fair tax, 2.5%? On everything on being consumed, we tax 2.5%. Then over on the other side, our income tax, let's change it a bit. From 0 to 55,000 K, or $55,000, let's have a 3% tax on that. Your deductions will be your kids, all your medical, interest on your house, and interest on your automobile. Okay? From 55,000 to 200,000, we'll give you that 9% Kane talks about. All right? And on that, you get your deductible for your kids, you get your deductible for your medical. Alright? Then you're going to have one from 200,000 on up. That'll be 14%. You don't get nothing for deductions. Sorry, just ain't nothing there for you. Whatever you make, you pay 14% on. Okay, let's go over to Social Security. Social Security, we'll break it down kind of the same way. 0 to 55,000 be 3%. Now remember, your employers, they also match that number, so they'll pay 3% to the government. From 55,000 to 200,000, we'll pay 6%. Your employers, they'll pay 6%. All right? That'd be 12% total. Right now, it's about 13. Okay. From 200,000 to 2 million, it'll be 10%. From 200 million, or 2 million, excuse me, on up, it'll be 15%. And all this goes back into your lockbox. Social Security. Let's get that divided and get it back like it's supposed to be. Of course, if it's like it's supposed to be, it should have never been to start with, because in the Constitution, ain't no way you're supposed to do that. But anyway, then let's get rid of the cap. I don't know if a lot of you realize that they got a cap. If I make $1 million a year, after they tax me up to about $108,000, I don't have to pay no more Social Security tax on that. The rest of it's gravy, right? So they're giving me a 6% break on my income. Let's get rid of that cap. Okay, death tax, capital gains tax.